Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Dreamer here, bringing you another silly build that sort of works. So I've been playing a little bit of Last Epoch lately, don't tell my wife, and a large part of that time has been going to trying to make a Flask road work. This one is my fast farming, potion chugging fire Flask Falconer. While this is a fast, tanky, and efficient speed farmer, I just can't find the damage to do higher corruptions or the highest level dungeons. I've tried cold, I've tried poison, I've tried bees, my personal favorite, and I finally settled on a tanky, speedy fire Flask thrower. He's great at just rushing through monoliths, finding nemesis portals, going through T1, T2, maybe T3 Temporal Sanctum to quickly slam those legendaries that you got potential on. Before we dive into the guts of how this build really works, I want to mention that, as usual, I'll put a link to the build in the description below and also a simple loot filter. So first off, a couple things I want to highlight. I prioritized speed and defense on this guy. You'll notice high stun avoidance, mostly capped resistances, 0 block chance despite using a shield. I'll talk about that in a second. And then over here on my defenses, we've got 60% endurance, the highest endurance threshold I could find. High crit avoidance, I've been juggling that a bit. And then this, 100% chance to receive glancing blow. So automatic 35% damage reduction. Moving on to the gear, I have a lot of legendaries equipped, but they're not required. They just help. The only thing that I would really want for this build is the potion throwing chest. Throw an acid flask, and this consumes a potion to throw a second one. This includes acid flasks that we throw, flasks that are going to be thrown by our bird, as well as flasks that are going to be thrown by shadow clones that we create with Smoke Bomb or Dash. In my inventory you can see I have some other gear, I'll go over that in a sec. Those are for the different damage types. So for fire we've got a fire starter's torch. This is really good because it has a spreading flames multiplier. Rings with throwing damage and reduced throwing cost are also very important to get the flask mana cost down. These gloves I really like lately. They replace your evade with a terrify, which is basically a fear. And the great thing about that is it's a multiplier for damage on the gloves, but the fear also interrupts so many things. Those annoying transfusion caskets that are killing everyone, bosses. The only downside is you can only fear each enemy one time. In boots, I'm using fiery dragon shoes for fire penetration or ignite penetration. This also increases the chance to receive a critical hit, so you're going to need to overcap on that a little bit, like I'm not doing right now. For my relic, I'm using the blasting agent, but you could just as easily use, say, a soulfire for fire spec. I'm using this one because I like the cooldown for decoy. Building a flask rogue, I was trying to really not go the route of explosive traps or ballista. I wanted it to actually be flasks as the main thing, and so decoy seemed like a decent addition with a low cooldown from this, paired with Hivemind, the bee helmet that I was using for a little while. I actually really like this thing for lower difficulties. So when you throw a decoy out, it explodes immediately and a bunch of bees pop out. We throw 3 decoys at a time, so we're getting 21 to 24 bees depending on how good your helmet is. Those bees get coated by being hit with a flask and gain elemental damage. And that works for poison or fire, I believe. I don't think it works for frost. So for a while I was running a combination of blasting agent and the Hivemind beekeeper helmet. Using these two, I was able to put out 21 pets every 5 or 6 seconds, they were able to just stack ignite stacks on tough enemies for me. The bees are really squishy. They only last 1 or 2 hits unless you hide them in your smoke screen. And then they get increased dodge chance and can maybe stick around a little while. For my rings, I'm just using whatever I could get with the stats I wanted. The necessary thing here again is the throwing attack mana cost reduction. You really want to keep your flask down to the lowest mana cost possible. I'm currently running this belt, but up until a little while ago I was using one with increased chance to find potions. There are a lot of good affixes that give you different bonuses on potion use, so I really suggest exploring them and finding one that works for you. Particularly this Cleanse Ailment on potion use and increased mana regen. Both seem to really help this build. For my shield, I'm running a Cradle of the Erased with high rolled resistances. You can see this gives me 35 all resist plus another 73 lightning, so that's nearly half of all my resistances. It also, and this is really important, gives me the block chance per stack of Golden Aegis. So we're going to be combining this with a skill that converts all block chance into glancing blow chance. So those 4 extra stacks of Golden Aegis really boost your glancing blow chance through this. And because you're not blocking, you never lose them. Remember I said I was using a belt with increased chance to find potions? Well, because it didn't slam onto my current belt, I moved it to my amulet slot. You can see here I'm using this for mana regeneration, which I find really helps. Increased chance to find potions, and then a bunch of defense, and I just squeezed some damage over time on there to get a free affix slot. In my helmet slot, I'm specifically using a pinnacle helm for the damage leached as health base affix. Also managed to get some decent defensive stats and a good 12% fire penetration with Ignite. So like I said earlier, I really tried to make Flask Rogue work with all different damage types. For a while I ran as Frost, so if you want to run as Frost you get something like a Frostbite Shackles, a Vial of Ice, Morning Frost Boots, Snowblind. If you wanted to go Poison, I would do maybe 2 Drought Release Daggers, dual wielded. There's a passive that gives you increased either damage over time or poison something for each dagger equipped, or perhaps a ladle. If you wanted to go fire but a more damage oriented route than defensive, you could switch out the Blasting Agent Relic and the shield for perhaps Ignivar's Head or Soulfire. Those both give decent bonuses to fire damage, damage over time. Up in the idle slots, I'm running Fire Penetration with Ignite where I can get it. And since I'm using Decoy, I got this one with Mana Efficiency. Up here again, Fire Penetration, increased throwing damage. Chance to Shred on throwing hit. That's really nice because armor, reducing armor does increase your damage over time a little bit. And then my small idols are just mostly adding flat health and mana or ward retention. Basically just defensive stats that I'm missing. I suppose I could change one of these out for a little bit more physical resistance right now. Moving on to passives, starting off in the rogue tree, we're putting 7 points in the Guile for dodge rating and poison resistance. But honestly, you could take any of these first tier ones depending on what you're going for. Health or damage, attack speed, they're all good. But here I'd get at least 1 point so that you can get 5 into evasion for reduced damage taken while moving and increased dodge rating. And then down here to agility, haste on hit chance, and increased damage per movement speed. And then up here you want more dodge rating and glancing blow chance. If you were going to go frost or poison, I would probably take dual wielding, and then over here increased damage and dodge while dual wielding, and increased poison chance with a dagger. That's what those 2 Droughts Release daggers were for. if you're going ice, all your poison chance gets converted into frostbite chance. Over in the Blade Dancer tree, we're taking 8 points in Cloak of Shadows for dexterity and glancing blow again. 10 points here for increased damage over time, and then for the other damage types, increased poison chance. 2 points into Shroud of Dusk to get Dusk Shroud sometimes when hit. That increases your dodge and glancing blow again. You see the theme? Glancing blow, glancing blow. Sometimes you want to consider taking this, Apostasy. So this changes your dodge chance into glancing blow at a 200% rate. So if you didn't want to use a shield, you would take this instead of a point I'm going to show you over in the Falconer tree. You would convert your dodge chance into glancing blow instead of block chance. In the Falconer tree, we're going to be picking up all sorts of different things. We're going to take Wilderness Scout for some health and dodge rating, Raptor's Wings for a chance to gain haste when us or our falcon hits an enemy, plus more damage from that haste, plus increased attack speed for our bird. So the falcon is going to be hitting things to give us buffs and also restore health and mana. So we want it to attack as fast as possible. Over here we're going to take Outlander's Tenacity for more dodge rating and max health gained as endurance threshold. Never have too much endurance threshold. Over here we're going to take increased throwing damage, attack speed, and more falcon attack speed. 5 points in Defensing Grace for increased damage with a one-hand weapon, and the 5-point bonus, which is block chance with a one-hand, and block effectiveness per dex. Down here we're going to put a point into Evasion Tactics, 1 into Coordinated Fade. This one takes your leftmost ability and gives you Silver Shroud on use every 10 seconds. I'm using it with Decoy, but if you were running something else like Explosive Trap or Ballista or maybe a different Falconer skill, you could just as easily put Flask on that spot because you're using it so often, or Dash or anything. Just a spell that you're going to use every 10 seconds at least. Now up here we have an important one. This is Deflect and Weave. You gain block chance, glancing blow chance, and health on block or glancing blow. But the important thing is the 5-point bonus. This is turning all our block chance into glancing blow. And that includes all of those stacks of Golden Aegis, which give us, I believe, 9% block chance each. Final souvenir we're going to put a point into to get to the end. I already talked about that one. We're going to take Relentless Talons for more damage and minion damage, and then also the 3-point bonus. Health gained on Falcon hit. I just put 1 point in here because I was looking for something to add to. Increased crit chance is good. Increased minion crit is good. Increased damage over time, and then the 5-point bonus goes to your Falcon. That's not as important, so you could probably get away with fewer points here if you wanted more defense somewhere else. More glancing blow chance. Expediency gives you increased haste effect and haste duration, which we're trying to gain from as many sources as possible. Plus it also gives you an extra potion slot. And then at the end we have Tailwind for reduced damage taken while moving, faster move speed, and more dodge. And also up here just increased damage and slow duration and more damage per slow, so that's another multiplier. And now we're at our skills and specializations. Starting off with Acid Flask. We're going to go on the left here and get Corrosive, just for more damage, so we can get up to Elixir of Speed, chance to grant haste, and then Toxic Salvo. I like this because it throws 3 in a line. You can get more range out of your flask. I don't, however, like Barrage. I felt like the fan wasn't meeting my needs. You can try it out for yourself, but I felt the extra point could be spent better elsewhere. On the other side, Hindering Mixture gives us slow chance and slow duration. Combine that with the more damage per slow talent that we got a minute ago. Alchemical Proficiency gives us increased mana efficiency and damage. The mana efficiency is really important, but if you can manage to get 2 T6 or 7 reduced mana throwing cost affixes on your rings, I would maybe consider taking a point or two out of here just to get a little more damage from a different area, perhaps here. Explosive Flask turns it to fire. Up here, Cluster Bomb gives you mini explosions on the sides. Those increase your ignite stacks. Smolder converts armor shred from everything to fire resistance shred. Down here, Flammable Concoction gives you more ignite chance. And then Firebomb Cocktail just gives you flat throwing fire damage. If you're gonna go poison, the only thing I don't recommend is poison pools. I'm sorry, poison or frost, I guess. I just really don't like the cooldown for this if you're using Flask as a main skill. In Decoy, we're taking a point in Boom, going up to Short Fuse for 3 points in a reduced duration. This plus the Blasting Agent Relic will make it an instant explosion. Over here, Shrouded Core makes a shadow. Whenever the decoy detonates, that shadow will throw acid flasks for you. Burning Oil adds ignite stacks. Meticulous Construction makes the damage more, but also mana cost more. I'm only taking this so I can get over to Grand Diversion, which adds 2 decoys to your throw. Efficient Construction gives you mana efficiency. Sonic Detonation gives you frailty stacks and armor shred applied. You could also put a point into Warning Sound to give yourself more haste if you wanted to. And then down here, Ear Shatter, more armor shred stacks and a longer duration for it. And then we convert that into fire resistance shred. If you wanted to combine this with the gloves I'm wearing, you could add this, Harrowing Noise, to get a fear, and that will give you the fear damage multiplier off of decoy as well as your fear evade from your gloves. So shift has basically replaced my basic evade that every character has, since my gloves convert it into fear. We're going to start off by going with velocity for cooldown recovery and mana efficiency. Momentum to gain movement speed after shifting. A point into lasting presence so we create a shadow, which will again throw flasks for us. And then we go this direction and take swift recovery for mana gained and mana gain below half health. Invulnerability while shifting. Elusive gives us dodge per point of dex. And then these two will throw flasks for you at the location you leave from and the location you arrive at. One thing I really like about dash is up here, not Unseen Strike, which adds damage along Dash's path, but the one after, Consumed by Shadow. This adds a kill threshold to Dash's damage. So get any boss to 16% health remaining, dash through it, instantly dead. In Dancing Shroud, in Smoke Bomb, we're going to take 5 points into Lingering Fumes for increased duration. It's going to stick around longer. 4 points for Smoke Blades for increased throwing damage from standing in the Smoke Bomb. Umbrella Assault is going to create Shadow Clones, which are going to throw flasks for us while this is out. And then we're also going to get Concealed in Carnage, which is going to give us stacks of Crimson Shroud while standing in the Smoke Bomb. And this gives us increased damage over time, reduction. Up here we're going to put a point into Thick Smoke to make Smoke Bomb slow enemies around us for increased damage modifiers. And over here we're going to take Shrouded in Darkness to get Dusk Shroud while standing in the Smoke Bomb. And then I have this set up for when I was using bees. I put 4 points into Rapid Concealment and then 1 up here into Shared Concealment. So this makes your stacks of Dusk Shroud apply faster, and this adds it to your allies. So when you spawn bees from your decoy, hopefully they'll live long enough to attack once or twice. Like I said, they're really squishy. If you aren't running bees, I would suggest maybe removing these points and going over in this direction, Eroding Fumes for armor shred, perhaps poison shred, poison chance. Finally, we come to our loyal falcon. We're getting 2 points into Falconer's mark, so that whenever the falcon hits an enemy, it marks them, and then we deal increased damage against those marked targets. 5 points into Wake of Wings, so that whenever we consume a falcon's mark, we get increased attack, cast, and move speed. Over here, we're putting a point into Marking Strikes to get over to Toxic Airdrop. This is going to throw flasks, or have our falcon throw flasks when we do. Increased flask capacity for the bird, and then increased chance to throw flask. Because it's over 100, that means it has a chance to throw 2 instead of 1. And then over on this side, we're going to get a point into Avian Stamina, so we can go up to Hunter's Spoils to get a little bit of health and mana regen when our falcon attacks or kills things. And lastly, I just want to show off bees, because this is honestly my favorite version of this build, and I wish I could get it to work at higher difficulties. Unfortunately, the bees are just too squishy, but look how fast the ignite stacks build up with them. They only take 1 or 2 hits, they don't last long, but they're really fun to use. Someday, maybe they'll be viewable. Alright guys, that is all from me. I hope you enjoy the build. I hope you tweak it to your needs, whether you want to play it cold, fire, poison, bees. It's a lot of fun. It's fast. It farms lower difficulty content efficiently. Enjoy.
Puppy, the internet liked and subscribed to our videos, so we get extra treats.